Welcome, everybody, to something that Landon and I are very excited to launch here at the beginning of 2023 as one of our big initiatives for this year, as well as years to come. A podcast specifically around the industries that we serve from an insurance perspective, as well as a risk management perspective, coming from two young insurance professionals within the space that continue to get more involved and are interested in getting more and more knowledge. So the thought process behind this is Landon and I have been involved within the Crane insurance space now for 6 to 8 years now. I think we started a year apart. We're very similar in age, and we've been getting involved within the industry. Any opportunities that we get, we look to get involved. So we noticed, and I'm sure many people notice within the insurance space, as well as just specifically the insurance brokerage space within the Crane space, there's a lot of gray hair, and that's not meant to be.
We do not look like the rest.
Yeah, that's not meant to be a con, because gray hair is wisdom. But going to these events, visiting with clients and prospects, we're the two younger professionals within this space. So we're looking to bring
a little spice to the industry.
A little spice to the industry from a younger professional's perspective. So rather than seeing a webinar or seeing a presentation at one of the association events talking about, putting a great submission together or the reptile theory behind an accident, we're going to talk about everyday scenarios within the Crane insurance space, as well as we're looking to bring on key people within the industry to jump on this podcast to give insight of what's going on. So you heard me mention the word podcast, and really the cat's out of the bag. That's what we're looking to start here. Landon and I, before we kind of go into self-introductions, many of you know me, Cameron Boots. More of you probably know Landon Beer. So we're thinking, what are we going to name this podcast? Is it going to be Crane Insurance Talk? And then it's going to be like advertised on the BBC as the most boring podcast of in the United States? No, we're going to call it something with some flash. So we used our names because we've got great names. And we're coming up with the Beer and Boots podcast. Now, I personally think Boots and Beer sounds better, but chivalry isn't dead.
I needed my name to be first.
Yes. So we're doing the Beer and Boots podcast here. So this first episode is meant to be more introductory of what's to come, as well as the more feedback that we can get from the viewers and the listeners of this podcast, the better it's going to be.
We want to know what you want to hear, what you want us to talk about, and we're excited for the feedback from this.
So a little bit of self-introductions. Actually, Landon, since it's the Beer and Boots.
Is first, yeah,
since beer
I'll
is first, I'll let you go.
Yeah, so my name's Landon Beer. I have been in the Crane insurance space coming up on 6 years now in April, which is crazy. I can say, back in the day, thinking of my career future, it was not that I was going to do anything in the construction industry or the insurance space, but been doing this now for 6 years and excited to see, how we can move forward with this podcast. And I think we really want to bring the, personal aspect to this. A lot of times, I think, when we talk about or just say the word insurance, people shut off. They don't want to hear anymore. And sometimes I don't blame them. So this is really, we want to switch it up and we want to, get with clients, prospects, and bring a new light to this industry with the information that you guys want to hear that we can help you learn.
Yeah. Great intro, Landon. You were nervous this whole time. Like, man, I'm going to mess this up. We're going to have to do like 20 takes. We're only on take 4, FYI.
Because Cam messed up.
I messed up. And Landon's going strong. But to piggyback off of what Landon said, I've got a very, very similar story just because I mentioned earlier that Landon and I started around the same time within a year of each other. But I started on the risk management side and the safety and loss control side of working for a brokerage firm that did nothing but insure two things: crane companies and scaffold companies. And as I started, I'm like, well, there's so much more than crane and scaffolding. You've got construction, like, as a whole. Like, I'm going to go do that. I'm going to go do that. And like I don't know if anybody's ever seen Joe Dirt when he goes to buy fireworks. The fireworks salesman says, we sell snakes and sparklers because snakes and sparklers are all I like. So I learned from an early age, cranes and scaffolding are all that we do. And that was the best advice I could have been given starting my career, because I even took that to the next level and began just focusing more and more on just the crane side. Getting into the brokerage side now, I've got 42 clients within the crane space, and I love it. And I continue to want to bring on more clients that have the same mindset from a risk management perspective, that's looking as just like, looking at insurance more than just a renewal. And what can you do with your insurance program? When you buy that $8 million Liebherr, is it a smooth process in regards to that? So with that being said, I know that was long-winded, and I said we were going to to calm it down a little bit.
The plan was this to be just a short introduction, but...
Yes, short introduction. But taking that to the next level, we love social media. We love marketing on social media. I mean, I've been on planes with Landon for 6 hours, and she's on TikTok for 6 hours straight when I'm trying to watch The Crown. And I'm like, how can you do social media? How can you be on TikTok that long? Like, the Chinese definitely have your information. But we want to take it to the next level. We're not doing just webinars. We're not doing just the same old insurance presentation that you see at a conference or convention. We're going to bring specifics of what's going on in the industry right now, and we're excited to do that. With that, I mean, I was going to pass it off to Lando, but I guess she just worked on her intro. With that, like Landon said, we're going to have guest speakers throughout the industry, whether it's from insurance carriers, crane companies, claims professionals, crane sales guys like that sell equipment, because I mean, everybody sees what did the equipment industry do from COVID? What were the aspects? How were buying cranes? How did that affect your business? Was it easier? Absolutely not. Finding cranes, it was difficult. So we want to be able to get that. How has your insurance changed, or how has your insurance responded, or your broker partner responded to streamline that process for you?
So Cam, in planning for our podcast and kind of the future of what we're going to talk about, I know a big discussion that we had was the cost of what equipment is today versus what it was 5 years ago. There's typically a lot more zeros added onto it. It is a lot more expensive. I think there is a perception in the industry or with our clients that, as your total insurable value or the amount of your equipment goes up, your rate should be going down. So I wanted you to kind of provide some more light on that to our listeners today so they have a better understanding.
Landon, I thought I discussed with you on the walk over not to throw any curveballs. I was specifically only prepared to discuss the reptile theory and how to put a good submission together. No, don't.
I've never heard of reptile theory.
That's all insurance presentations can be about, is the reptile theory and putting a great submission together. Not this, how do I properly insure my equipment? What kind of crane company?
Important. I know.
What kind of crane company wants to know that? But since you asked, let me go into that. Buying equipment right now, buying cranes, it's not easy. It's starting to light up. They're starting to get a little bit more available. But a common thought process is, okay, let's say you're a crane company and you've got a $10 million fleet, total insurable value, $10 million worth of cranes. It's always a common thought process that if my schedule or my values go from 10 to 25 million year over year, that my rates for the equipment is automatically going to go down. And I don't blame a company, as well as it's the thought process that we have when we leverage with insurance carriers and underwriters, that is usually the case. But let me give you an example and an understanding of how that may not always be the case. So I keep mentioning these newer cranes, larger cranes. What are they costing? We're seeing cranes being added $5, $6, $8 million of total insurable value. Think about how difficult that is for an insurance carrier to write and cover. Obviously, we work with insurance carriers that do a really good job at insuring them, but look at it in this perspective. If you total that crane, that claim is just as big as a fatality. Just as big as a fatality. Think about that. And I think we can all agree cranes being totaled or cranes overturning or just something and getting in an accident over the road is a lot more common in the industry than fatalities occurring. So look at that into the perspective of if you are adding that total insurable value, adding that equipment to your schedule, and it's an $8 million crane, it's not just taking it from 10 to 18 million. That carrier's got to go get reinsurance to specifically cover that crane. Some carriers can't even cover that on just one policy. They have to break it out and insure it with two separate policies. That's how difficult it's getting with the reinsurance market within property. Why is reinsurance getting difficult in property? Again, we're not going to touch base on it too much right now. But look at what
10 minutes later into the conversation.
She's supposed to be keeping me in check right now, and I don't think she's doing the best job at it. But I was trying to pass it off to you, and you didn't answer. But again, why is property and reinsurance so hard? Look at the hurricanes. The hurricanes hitting property markets hard. Those are expensive property claims. Look at riots. Look at anything like that hits the property market is going to cause the reinsurance of property and equipment to be a lot more difficult. So it's something next podcast that we're going to do. We are going to cover that, and we're excited to do it, and we're excited for feedback, as well as this is also the opportunity that we want to open up now. We have a lot of people interested in jumping on the show with us, but if you are interested or have any feedback, please share it with us, whether it's through LinkedIn, our emails. I'll give you guys Landon's cell phone if you want it. But yes, definitely let us know. So Landon, I'll pass it over to you since you've been eyeing me up saying I've been talking too much. But anything else you want to add?
Yeah, no, I'm just really excited for this podcast going forward. I think, we're going to do a lot more question-based back and forth, kind of, pick knowledge off each other. And we want to hear all of your feedback so we can tailor this to what the needs are of our clients and hopefully future clients that will be listening to this.
We're looking forward to 2023. We're looking forward to bringing information straight to you guys from the palm of your hand, from your phone or on your computer.
So that's a wrap on our first podcast of 2023. For all of the listeners out there, we're hoping there's, more than maybe 10 of you. Thank you for tuning in and listening. We're really excited to finally get this rolling and see what 2023 has in store for the Beer and Boots podcast.
And remember, ladies and gentlemen, you start your day off with a pair of boots and not a glass of beer, unless it's Saturday. Thanks, everybody.
Thank you.